Thank you for your attendance today for the Mississippi Advisory Commission on Marine Resources for October 22nd, 2024. I think I'll lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Director, if you'd like to lead us in a prayer.
Yeah, and before we start today, obviously we want to keep all the people in Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and even Virginia. We got a lot of people that are hurting, and a lot of people that have went through a lot of things that we've seen in the past. We know how it felt after Katrina, and even with the smaller storms that we've had. But we just want to keep them in our prayers. And if you ever get a chance, and you can go help them, or you can send money, do it, because they did it for us. And after Katrina, it was just flooding in here, right and left, from people from all over the United States of America to help us. So if there's a way that you can help, and if you want, maybe go do something for them, we'd appreciate that. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity. We thank you for giving us this commission and for giving us this agency to be able to operate. And we just ask that you give each and every one of us the wisdom and knowledge to do it your way and not ours. We ask this in Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
Thank you, Director. On to the minutes, September 16th, approval of the minutes. Do we have any questions? There's no questions on the minutes. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion, we accept the minutes.
All those in favor? Aye.
If you could, please do it on the mic so she can hear you.
Nope. Is that not close enough? Sorry. All right. Approval of the agenda. Do we have any questions on today's agenda? If not, do we have a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. All right, Director, over to you.
All right. Employment contracts. Thomas Rogers was promoted and law enforcement officer 2 to corporal, and we have Tyler Foster, who was promoted sergeant in Marine Patrol. So always good to be able to move our troops up, and obviously show them how much we appreciate them. So congratulations to both of them. I don't think we have any procurement. The agency update. One thing is our next commission meeting is scheduled for Tuesday the 19th. So is that okay with everybody? Any questions on that? Okay. And I think that was, I don't know if that's is that the third Tuesday? Is it normal? So it's a normal Tuesday, right? Okay. All right. Update on cruising the coast. I tell you what, if you didn't go, you missed out on a great time. Cruising the coast is, was huge again this year. We didn't quite reach the number of cars that we did last year, but I think we was in 100 or so of getting there. But, when you got 10,000 cars that are registered and another 5,000 plus that are not registered to coming on the coast, well, Mississippi Seafood was everywhere. And I tell you what, it was a great thing for us to be able to be there, and all the people at DMR that work so hard to be out there every day. I appreciate each and every one of them, because they stood there and talked to Mississippi Seafood, and they talked to the people that are coming here from all over the parts of the United States, and they talked to them about how much the Mississippi Seafood is, how great it is, not the cost, but how great it is. And one of the things that we're putting out, and we're asking people to do this. If you go into a restaurant and you order seafood, is it Gulf fresh? Now, if it's Alaskan king crab, no, it's not, okay? But if it's shrimp, if it's oysters, if it's fish, they're supposed to be in the Gulf of Mexico, is it Gulf fresh? Ask the people that. And, the only way that we're going to keep our oystermen, shrimpers, and crabbers and fishermen working is if we keep operating and we keep selling Gulf fresh. And so if we can put Gulf fresh out there, And that's what we need to do. We need to ask that question. Is it Gulf Fresh? That's how we'll stop the restaurants from serving things that are not. Because if you don't buy it, they won't serve it anymore. They'll quit doing it, and they'll move to what we need. So let's help our restaurants, and let's help our fishermen, and let's help everyone get together, and let's help the industry to be able to move forward. Because that's what we need to do with Gulf Fresh. And Gulf Fresh is, I tell you what, if you can't tell the difference, you need to go back and look at it again. Because when I eat a Gulf Fresh shrimp or I eat something that's imported, I can tell you in the first bite. And the same thing with anything else that we do. So ask your people, when you go out, when you go to the restaurant, say, is it Gulf Fresh? No matter where you're at, is it Gulf Fresh? All right? But anyway, we had a great time. That worked out, and that was 5 through 13 October, and we're going to be the sponsor again next year. So get ready. We're not giving up. We're going to keep telling Gulf Fresh Seafood until we can't tell it anymore. All right. We also had the Gulf States Marine Fisheries Commission last week, and Gulf Shores, and Rick and I and numerous others from the agency attended. We had some great response there. I think our fisheries are pretty good shape. And one of the things that we did in the Menhaden was brought up, and the report from it came back that we're not overfished, and we're not having a problem with it, and we're not doing any damage by what we're doing. So that is great news for us, because we have a big Menhaden industry here on the Gulf Coast, and we need to keep it operating. And so that is a great thing for us to hear that, and to hear that report coming out that we're doing fine. And I think that we're looking at some other things as what we can do. You know, our agencies are all on the line doing basically the same thing. We want to make sure that one of the topics was talking about how do we do this? You know, we have a shrimp, and we have oysters, we have others, and we're transporting them back and forth across state lines. And how do we do it, and how do we do it legally? And, you know, we've been doing it for years, and I think that that's something that we got to work with the legislature on. And we got to get the legislators in the different states all on the same sheet of music of what we're doing. And once we do that, we'll be okay. And I think we can work it out. And I think the agencies are all looking to try to help each other the best that they possibly can on that. But any questions on Gulf States? All right. We sponsored the collegiate golf tournament. Did Ole Miss win? They did win. All right, good. And so we sponsored the tournament here. We didn't do anything but cook. We went out and cooked for them. And I tell you what, we cooked the shrimp and the oysters and other things for them. They paid for everything, and we had a good time. The guys that worked hard at it. And I tell you one thing, it went over big time, because those kids were walking around there eating fresh shrimp and oysters, and they were like, man, these are great. And the fish and all was fantastic. So it was a good deal to have that. And I don't go, at least 10 or 12 colleges. I'm not sure exactly who all, but a lot of them from the Southeast. So that was something that really brought us some good advertisement, just being out there cooking. And now they're asking us to help them on the PGA. And I'm like, oh, Lord. They said, we'll buy everything. We just want y'all to cook. So they want us to go on the PGA Tour, I guess. I don't know what it is, but they're talking about that. Hey, you know, we'll buy everything. We just want y'all to cook for us. So we'll look at it and see what we can do. Gulf of Mexico Alliance meeting is next week, or this week rather. It's I'll leave tomorrow, and we'll be over in Gulf Shores for another day or so there. And then I'll leave from there and go to Jackson and meeting with the Lieutenant Governor and others about what we're going to do with basically the Mississippi River, and how we want to address the Corps of Engineers and what we do with it. So I think that'll be a good deal, that we can try to put a plan together in Mississippi to be able to do something. Veterans Day is coming up November 11th, and we will be closed that day. If you know a veteran, thank them. And because there'll be a lot of events, and just stop by, and if you ever get a chance and you see one, if you see them, a lot of, especially the Vietnam and the handful left in Korea and World War II, wear the hats. And if you see them wearing the hats or whatever, or the Desert Storm, Desert Shield, or the Gulf War, thank them, because they gave a lot for us. So we appreciate everything that they've done. Thank them for what they do. Well, if you didn't see that big roach out there, if y'all ever seen a 170-foot roach or whatever that thing is, it's pretty good size. But we got a roach. It's then it's going to be made into a artificial reef, thanks to Best Pest Control, and we appreciate them being able to sponsor that. And that'll be going out here soon. Is it still sitting out at the harbor? Yeah. And so it's still down in Biloxi there, so you can go by and look at it if you want to. But, that'll be more that we talked about this the other day at the Marine Fisheries, too, at the meeting. And I was explaining to them there's not too many people in the world that have a roach or an artificial reef. Well, we're going to have one. And that roach is going to go out there, and people are going to come not just to catch fish off of it, but there's going to be a lot of people want to go diving and looking at it and taking pictures with it and doing different things. So just think about it. Mississippi's got a first in something else. And, and I guarantee you there's enough roaches around here, so we at least have an understanding of it, all right? All right, our oyster lease program. We are in the process right now of leasing 80% of the bottoms on the oysters. That opened up, and I think it was the 1st of October, and it'll close on the 1st of December. And we will go into, at that point, and we will start processing each and every application to tell you where we're at and what we're going to do and who gets what piece of property that we're going to be able to lease. I think this is going to be fantastic. I think it's going to be great for the state of Mississippi. It's something that's been needed to be done for a long time. We just took a long time getting it through the legislatures and things that we needed to do. But now that, we got about 12,000 acres that's permitted. We can't afford to do it, number one, and we don't have the personnel to do it, to be able to maintain 12,000 acres of on-bottom oysters. So the best thing that we could do is go out and lease out the majority of it to the people that are going out there that's going to work every day on it. And I can tell you that if you invest your money in it, it's about $3,000 or $4,000 an acre just to be able to culture it and maintain it and do what you need to do. So the people that are going out there leasing 500 acres or 1,000 acres or 200 acres or whatever the number is, they're putting a lot of investment into this. And so to put that investment in it, then it's going to bring out, hopefully, a return for them. And that return is going to do two things. That return is going to bring in money to the state of Mississippi because we're going to have oysters that are out there. They're being sold and processed. And number two, it's going to feed our estuary because they're growing oysters that's going to feed our estuary. And that's something that's fantastic. And that's going to help in everything that we do, the fisheries and everything that we do. It will help. And so I think it's a great deal. I look forward to being able to get it done. I'm sorry it's taken so long, but hopefully we will be able to get everybody their property awarded sometime before the first of the year, around the first of the year, and then that way they can start to culch for the spring and be able to start moving forward. And so I think that any questions on the oyster lease program? It's going good right now. I don't know how many applications I haven't asked, but the applications are coming in. And I think that we'll have quite a few of them. What is that on? It's artificial reefs. Okay.
That's
Well,
Ralph.
okay. I don't know that we have that. Hang on just a second. Yeah, well, we got it right here. Let me put it in case. Okay. All right. Just want to make sure Ralph will put it where it's supposed to be. But anyway, no questions. And Bonnie Carey update. We're doing good. We're about to go out now with the second round. And the second round and what we're looking at is some of our fishermen and women were not able to get to the in the process of being able to apply the first time. And, we realize that especially some of them stay out, quite a few days at a time, and they weren't able to do it. And some of them, and they asked us, is there any chance? Well, we found that we had a little bit of extra money left that we could reprogram from one program to another because that program had already been taken care of in another way. And so we went back, and so we're going to go out now and we're going to re-advertise. Has it hit the streets yet? Okay. we'll put out a public notice. It'll hit the streets here shortly. Charmaine then will put it out for us. So we'll get that out. But what it's going to be is basically for you to be able that if you're a commercial fisherman of any type, or if you're a processor, or if you're a charter boat, or any of them that we have, what we're going to do is we're going to basically say that if you did not apply in the first round, and you qualify because you have the trip tickets, you have the proper documentation to do it, then go qualify, and let's see if we can't help everybody that we possibly can. We don't want to leave any fisherman out, anybody out in the industry. And so if you're any of the processors, any of the dealers, anything, if you did not make it in the first round because you did not apply because of whatever reason, we're going to give you a chance to go back. And so hopefully this will happen in the next few days, that we'll get it out, and then we'll be able to get that process going. Any questions on that? But I think but as far as the money, you know, we've got 90% of the money out to all the people. There's still one or two just outliers that we're looking at, and but most of the fishermen have been given their funds, and so hopefully we'll get this thing under control and be able to give more money out. And then we're working on some other projects with it. Tracy, is there anything else I forgot on that? Okay. All right, derelict vessels, we're still doing it. Total of 170 that we have now that have been reported. 134 of them have been removed. 36 are pending removal, and 12 are in the courts right now to be removed. So we are, I was talking to some of them at Gulf States the other day, and I can tell you right now that we're far, far, far above the other 4 states in the Gulf as far as what we're doing and how we're getting removed. And so, Stephen, thank you, and Roy and the team, thank y'all for what you're doing. You're doing a great job. Stephen just beat the court up every day, you know, on it. He's in there. And but we're getting what we need, and we're getting stuff removed, and we're getting the waters cleaned up. And that's going to be another thing that happens. Number one is it cleans up the waters. It takes out a lot of stuff out of it, takes some hazard out of it. It takes some issues away from it, and it takes the beauty. And now we still have the most, you know, it keeps our beautiful, pristine coast and everything, and our waterways looking better. All right, other than that, public comments. If you have any crystals up front here, please let her know, and we'll get them in. And other than that, sir, I think that's other than actions update. I need to go to that. So I'd like to forget you, David.
Thank you, Director, and good morning, Commissioners and Director. Discussed at the September 24 meeting was the Commission recommended and the Director approved the following motions, which were to approve a Title 22 variances and consistency certification as requested by the NPS Gulf Islands National Seashore for the filling of coastal wetlands, for the road widening, construction, and other improvements along Park Road and the Stark Bayou area in Ocean Springs. And that's all the actions update we have for this morning.
Okay, we don't need anything on it, right? Sandy, we good?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, other than that, if you didn't get any of those great shrimp that we did during cruising the coast, because they boiled them shrimp out there every day, and I tell you what, they was a line standing every time you turned around. They knew when the shrimp was being boiled, and they was a line standing waiting. So if you didn't get any, come out next year, and we'll get you some. And sir, that's what my report for today.
Thank you. And they made it really easy because I think they were peeled all except for the tail. So it was really, really nice. Yeah. Took the work out of it. So all you had to do was eat. I had one quick question on the Gulf Fresh initiative. If is there any way, and maybe there is something out there, any listing of like the actual retail or the restaurants that are selling the Gulf shrimp, like a list where somebody could actually look at on the website?
You know, we've been working on that. Charmaine, did we come up with an actual list? It's on what? It's on the Mississippi Seafood website.
Oh, good.
All right, say that again. Come up here before we can hear it. One of you come up here and tell me what it is.
It's on our website, msseafood.com. And so there's a list of retailers and wholesalers and everything on there.
That's fantastic. I know it's probably a never-ending evolution of adding and removing, but I think it's worth it to have it.
And we do get restaurants who reach out to us and let us know to put them on there. Not just restaurants, but also wholesalers
That's
and all
great.
that. So
Awesome.
One of the things I would like to do, and we're going to work on this, and I will get with them on it, and we're going to try to come up with some type of a sign or something that we can put out there that if people want to do it in their restaurant, it says that we serve Gulf Fresh. And you know, and I'd like to do that. That would be when you walk in, you see it. In other words,
Good
and
idea.
so I think a lot of the restaurants will work with us on that. And if we buy the sign for them and everything else, that's fine, you know, because we can work out something for them. But we're going to work on something at the beginning stages right now. Thank y'all.
Great. Thank you. All right. Appreciate that. Director, do we have any reports from the commissioners?
I would like to say that I heard Lieutenant Payne is garnering some international acclaim for his boiled shrimp recipe he's working on. So big shout out to him. And just wanted to mention something that's in the news here. So at the Morgan City Shrimp and Petroleum Festival, they had a company who's got a rapid DNA test, went around and sampled all the vendors at the show. And I believe it's something to the effect of like 75% of them were serving imported shrimp. And then last night, also got word that that the Gulf Shore Shrimp Festival had 4 out of the 5 vendors serving imported shrimp, with the lone exception being Rouse's Supermarket. So, you know, I just wanted to throw that out there that, you know, they do have some companies that are making this rapid DNA test, and I would certainly like to see, like, if the commission is sponsoring any festivals here in Mississippi that are requiring local seafood, maybe some preemptive testing or something like that, so we don't end up in the news negatively like these folks.
You know, Charmaine, the Biloxi Seafood Festival, don't we look at that in it, right? We ask people to, does it not state something about fresh seafood? Yeah, so that's one that we sponsor. And that's what they are trying to do. And, you know, obviously you can ask it,
Yep.
but do you get it, you know, at 100% because somebody, but when they come in and, you know, they're selling it, especially for fried or something like that, it's hard to, you know, really test it to do what. But I agree with you 100% that we need to, anything that we sponsor, we ask that it has to be Gulf Fresh. And anything, if we buy food to be able to cook somewhere, we require the supplier to be Gulf Fresh. It has to be Gulf Fresh. We don't want anything, and that's how we put it out. So maybe we can. I don't know about DNA testing, but we can try.
Well, these are, you know, it used to be to where, like, if you had to sample the shrimp, you had to send it off to a lab, you had to wait a week or two for the results. But this company seems to have them figured out, and I think you get results in an hour right there at the dinner table.
Something to look into.
It's a great idea. Great idea. One last question. What do we have any other reports, commissioners? Anybody? Good. I was going to ask. You had mentioned the Menhaden report. Was that through the Gulf Coast Research Lab, or who actually was preparing that?
Rick, who was actually Trevor? Which one? Trevor? Which one of y'all?
So Trevor sits on the MAC, but there's a Menhaden Advisory Committee that's comprised of NOAA and the states and the actual industry. And NOAA did a stock assessment based on the state's information and industry information. They said that the stock is not overfished or undergoing overfishing.
Okay, and that's going to be. They're going to put that out. Is it already?
Should already be out.
Is it?
Trevor, you know all about it. That's a big thing for us.
Yeah, so it went to from the MAC, so initial review of the assessment. It was approved. It went to the State Federal Committee where it was approved. It should be on the publications website of Gulf States, if not now, very shortly. I think there's actually news articles going out that have been released about it, so it should be available on their website. And it will be available on the CDAR website as well, which is where all the federal assessments are kept.
And Trevor, from what I said a while ago on it, my understanding from listening to the report that it was definitely not overfished, and that they was. Can you give a little bit of a report on that for them?
Yeah, so these are all done. The Menhaden assessments and the Blue Crab assessments are all done through what's called a GDAR process. Simply, it's the Gulf Data Assessment and Review rather than the Southeast. So it's comprised of our groups. It has CIE reviewers, so independent reviewers, and it's comprised of the state's information. So essentially, the track we've been seeing with Menhaden is that harvest has remained relatively stable over the last decade. Because as you understand, the fleet's gone through significant reduction over the last 30 years with closing of plants and decreases in boats and everything else like that. So it's really held to the capacity that the fishery has at the moment. So landings have remained stable, and the index of abundance, especially with the Louisiana fishery independent sampling, their net sampling has shown a steady increase in trajectory of the Menhaden population over time. So these assessments, every time they've been run, they've shown that essentially the stock is not overfished and not undergoing overfishing simply because it's one of the most productive and resilient stocks that are out there. The new reproductive measures that were input into the assessment that were done by individuals at the Gulf Coast Research Laboratory basically showed that the stock's fecundity was 10 times the amount that was originally produced. And that basically leads to a level of resilience in the stock where it just recuperates no matter what, the harvest is, and that harvest is constrained at this point. So, yeah, I mean, the stock's looking good, and it always kind of has. It's a very productive stock that we have here.
Appreciate that. Thank you for the information. All right. Anybody have any more questions on the Menhaden reports coming forth? Okay. Office of Marine Patrol, Chief Wilkerson.
Good morning. How's everybody doing? Well, Commissioner McClendon, I'm going to tell you, Jeffrey Payne is an asset to the cooking team. But Deputy Chief Jex is the cooker.
I knew it had to do with some training up there somewhere. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to make it brief. The Marine Patrol report.
He's public relations.
That's exactly right. Now he got a strong back too now. All right. So Labor Day did fall into this report. Very, very normal Labor Day. Nothing out of the ordinary. I mean, there were 3 injuries on jet skis. We assisted George County Sheriff's Department on a recovery of a young man that drowned on the river up there in Lucedale. And we stayed there 2 days helping them. Other than that, we had 2,400 contacts that month. So it was busy, but it was a calm month. I like to see that. Any questions?
I can just tell you and thank y'all. You know, it's not just the Marine Patrol part of the team, but there are a lot of it. But there's a lot of other people within the agency that help out with that fisheries and the cooking,
Yes.
and other departments, and so they do a great job. And I tell you what, those young kids the other day, somebody asked me. He said, "Sir, how do you cook that oysters that way?" I said, "Don't ask me how to cook them." And so. But they just something about that flavor that they put in that oyster and those shrimp that those kids today just like, man.
Yep.
So keep it up.
It's a process.
Yeah.
All right.
Appreciate it. I know you guys are out there in all the elements. You know, it's cold. You know, rain, sun, wind. So, yeah, appreciate that, guys. All right, looks like we're moving on down to the Office of Finance and Administration. Ms. Brewer.
Good morning, everyone. I'm presenting the financial statements for the end of September of 2024. At the end of September, our state revenue was $3.6 million. Our agency revenue was $5.3 million. State net income was $2 million, and agency net income overall was a negative $1.8 million. We just got our Tidelands funding last week of $11 million, so that'll flip around next quarter. After 3 months of fiscal year 2025, the operating funds have 97.5% of the budget remaining, and Tidelands has 93.6%. Anybody have any questions?
Matter of fact, when are we supposed to receive our Tidelands check? They're gonna be
Last week?
presentation something.
Oh, the check itself.
Huh? 29th? Okay. So the Secretary of State will be here on the 29th to give us that check. And, we've already got the money, but they're gonna give us, a short check.
Good stuff. Thank you so much. Any other questions? All right, appreciate it. All right, down to public affairs, Miss Charmaine.
Good morning. The Mississippi Department of Marine Resources had 20 media mentions since the September MACMR meeting. News items included the certified fish records, a jet ski collision in Pass Christian, and MDMR accepting proposals for on-bottom molluscan shellfish leases. The Office of Marine Patrol took part in the Van Cleve High School College and Career Fair on September 18th, the Hook 'em for Heroes Fishing Rodeo in Pass Christian on September 21st, the Singing River Scout and Youth Fishing Rodeo in Moss Point on October 5th, Night Out Against Crime in Waveland October 5th, North Bay Night Out in Biloxi on October 17th, the Westminster Presbyterian Church's Fall Festival on October 19th, and the Long Beach Police Department's Night Out Against Crime on October 19th. The Office of Coastal Resources Management and the Office of Coastal Restoration and Resiliency both participated in the Hummingbird Festival at the Pascagoula River Audubon Center on October 20th and 21st. Jason Soche gave a presentation at the Gen C Workforce Development Program at the USM Gulfport campus on September 24th, and USM brought the Gen C high school teachers field trip to the Bolton building on October 11th. The Office of Coastal Resources Management, the Office of Marine Fisheries, and the Office of Marine Patrol each gave presentations, as well as providing a tour of one of the DMR labs. Daniel Taylor in the Shrimp and Crab Bureau participated in the Casting Nets program on October 16th. The Finfish Bureau's team lead, Megan Fleming, presented the poster Cyanotoxin Testing of Mississippi Seafood during a cyanobacteria bloom at the 2024 Mississippi Water Resources Conference in Flowood, October 10th through the 11th. And as part of her work with the DMR Harmful Algal Bloom team, she monitored water samples and seafood during the 2019 Bonnie Carey Spillway opening and shared her methods and experience on the protocol and findings during that event. During the Restore America's Estuaries 2024 Coastal and Estuarine Summit in Arlington, Virginia, October 6th through the 9th, Shellfish Bureau team lead Ellen Coffin gave the presentation GIS-based approach to oyster resource management and disaster response in the Mississippi Sound, and Shellfish Bureau fisheries scientist Catherine Glover presented Tracking the Natural Replenishment of Mississippi's Eastern Oyster Reefs after a fisheries disaster. Shellfish Bureau Director Jason Ryder also participated in the summit. The agency's cooking team, as well as volunteers, do I have that up here? As well as volunteers from various offices throughout the agency, took part in the 28th annual Cruise on the Coast. Mississippi Gulf Fresh Seafood Program sponsored Cruise on the Coast for the second year and served as presenting sponsor. During the week, the cooking team boiled over 1,000 pounds of shrimp, and samples were handed out to event attendees at Cruise Central, located at Centennial Plaza in Gulfport. Samples were given out throughout the day on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday of Cruise on the Coast. And to further promote Mississippi Gulf Fresh Seafood, the promotional booths were set up at each of the city's cruising events. Visors, koozies, fans, bags, recipe cards, and informational materials were handed out to event attendees on Wednesday in Biloxi, Thursday in Bay St. Louis and Pascagoula, and Friday in Ocean Springs. And on October 18th, the agency's cooking team cooked for the Collegiate Invitational Golf Tournament at Fallen Oak, and the tournament is hosted by Mississippi State University, Ole Miss, and Southern Miss, and colleges from across the nation competed in the 4-day event. It's a lot.
I think we could have paid the salaries for the year if we could have sold them shrimp face shirts.
Yeah.
Because I tell you, everybody in the world, our teams are all wearing them. It says get shrimp faced. I think it is. It's something that they came up with, the marketing team years ago. Mm-hmm. And but everybody in the world, where can I get one of them shirts? Where can I get one of them shirts? Maybe we should market them. But they worked out good, and that a lot of people enjoyed it. But the team worked hard. Thank y'all. We appreciate everything y'all did for that. I mean, every day we did Pascagoula, Ocean Springs, Biloxi,
And
3 times in Gulfport, and Bay St. Louis that we had teams set up. So that tell you, that was across the coast in a week's time. So there was a lot of people that got to see Gulf Fresh.
Yeah. I think, looking at those pictures, it just jogged my memory from the that week. I think it was Monday, but I was going to tell Commissioner McClendon and Chief Wilkerson, I did see Jeffrey Payne, but he was driving around on a golf cart with water. So I think he was the water boy. I think that was his role. Is that correct? Okay. It jogged my memory when I saw that, so I had to mention that. Thank you very much.
It's a good thing Jeffrey's not here today. I don't know where he's at.
Okay, on to marine fisheries, Oyster Reef assessment, Jason Ryder.
Good morning, commissioners and director, Sandy and Stephen. How y'all doing today? I wanted to give a brief update on the Shellfish Bureau, some of the projects that we're working on, and then a proposal for y'all. So to start with, I wanted to give an update on the coach planning that was accomplished in 2024. We deployed approximately 18,000 cubic yards of limestone over 2 state-owned reefs in June. The first one was Pass Christian. We did 34 acres, and we deployed 3,424 cubic yards of material. Second one was in Pass Marianne state-owned reef, and it was 34 acres. We did 2 sites in this one, 34 acres, and it was 44,395 cubic yards, and then 70 acres with just over 10,000 cubic yards. What we were able to do this year on those reefs is, in the last couple of years, we did reduce our footprint, as the director mentioned earlier, to 20% of the permitted area. And what we can do and what we have been doing is identifying good bottom that we can target with these coach plants that has limited resource, but may have a resource next to it. So we can plant the bottom and then hope for spat settlement with that. It's showing pretty good. We have sampled those areas that we deployed. We are seeing spat set on almost every piece of material we collected, and we expect that to continue to grow throughout this season. We deployed in June, and to be honest, since then, the water quality conditions have been favorable, and we haven't had too many issues environmentally. So we do expect to see a modest recruitment this year. We'll keep you posted on that. The next update I want to do was the stock assessment, reef assessment, and dredge tows. So to date, we have sampled 120 1-minute dredge tows across our state-owned reefs, and we've done 288 square meter samples with a total of 576 samples. As you can see on the maps, the orange is square meters, and then the blue triangles are dredge tows. We covered a lot of the area. We have a pretty good understanding of what's going on our state-owned reefs in the Mississippi Sound. What we're seeing is modest recruitment. We've seen some increases since 2019, and our oysters are coming back pretty consistently every year over year. But what we're seeing is that we are coach limited, and we need somewhere for these oysters to attach to, and that's what we're doing with our coach plants. We're optimistic about where the resource is going, but we want to be cautious and monitor it appropriately. So we like to see things, and we like the trajectory of where we're at. We're still not where we need to be, but we are moving in the right direction with our reef assessments and our resource on the reefs. Because of this, we wanted to propose a limited season in 2024. And what we're proposing is a 10 days in November. We're proposing November 13th through 26th, and then 10 days in December. As you can see, these correlate right before the holidays in both months, and we're looking to get some oysters on the market locally for the public and for these harvesters that want to engage in the activities. We're proposing all permitted areas in the Western Sound open for harvest, tongs and dredges, and then it would be 10 sacks per day per boat. Now, I understand this is a limited season, so we want to stress that we want to monitor what we're harvesting and do it appropriately. So that is our main goal, is to get some oysters on the market and then to monitor it and track it appropriately. It's been a couple years since we've had a season, so we want to do it right this time. So with that, some of the details, you would have to follow all regulations that are in Title 22, Part 1. It's been a while since some of these harvesters had a license, so if they do want to get a license, they need to take the harvester training course. We're offering various dates and times for that. And we are going to do check stations. Right now, we're proposing Pass Christian and Bayou Caddy. All oysters will have to be tagged according to Title 22 or Title 22 Part 1 regulations, and all harvesters would required to check in and out of these locations. So a standard oyster season, as you've seen in the past, trying to keep it consistent so everybody gets back into the swing of things, understands what we expect out of them, and then to provide some oysters on the market in Mississippi. So I think that's all I have. Director, or does anyone have any questions or any comments?
Yeah, thank you, Jason. Yeah, I realize, you know, it's a small harvest that we're looking at, but we got to walk before we run. We've not had a harvest since 2019, so this is something that we've been able to do it now. We don't want to hurt the resource. We want to maintain the resource, and that's one of the things that we're looking at. I think that, you know, being able, I know 10 sacks is not a whole lot, but at least it's some, and it gives you an opportunity to be able to do that for 20 days and to be able to, you know, bring some oysters to the level and bring them to the processors and, you know, to the dealers and be able to have some on the market. It'll also help maybe during the holidays that we're doing it during this time to be able to have some on the market for them. I mean, everybody loves to have their oysters in South Mississippi and other places during that time. I want to thank the team. Jason, Eric, everybody that's on the shellfish, stand up. If you're on the shellfish team. We want to give them a round of applause. They have worked hard on this. They have worked extremely hard. And, you know, they've come back with every piece of information that I've asked for. They've come back and looked at it as hard as they could as to find out what they could do. They've tried to, you know, look at each area as much as possible. They're working hard to move this forward. And, you know, what we're talking about with the industry doing in the future once we lease these 80%, those 80% then are going to be run by the private individuals. We're still going to keep that 20%. We're still going to culch as much as we can. We're still going to put spat on shell as much as we can. We're going to, you know, we're going to try to do whatever we can to keep building the resource. And in that situation, that will not only help us, but it will help those people that are renting the bottoms, that are leasing the bottoms, that they can go ahead and we can give spat to them too, because what we will be putting out will also be moving forward. So I would ask the commission if it would, Sandy, I think I would be, that the staff maybe would get a recommendation, and I think it's on the board there. Jason, you want to read it?
I can read it. So the staff's recommendation to the executive director is that the agency open Area 2A, Area 1B, Area 2B, Area 2E, Area 2F, Area 2G, Area 2H, and Area 2I in the western Mississippi Sound for a limited oyster season. The season will be open on November 13th for a period not to exceed 10 days, and again on December 9th for a period not to exceed 10 days, excuse me. The daily sack limit will be set at 10 sacks per day per vessel. And then all approved methods of harvesting along with designated harvest areas will be detailed in the official opening order issued by the MDMR.
Thank you, Jason. Appreciate the information. Do we have any questions on the staff's recommendation?
The only thing I would like to, if we could add one little line in there that gives the executive director the authority in case of weather and everything to change the dates.
So we discussed that, and I think that'll be in the opening order.
That's in the opening order? Okay, so we don't need it here?
I
Okay,
don't believe so.
all right, thank you.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the staff's recommendation for the limited oyster season?
I make a motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Appreciate all your hard work to the whole team.
All right, thank you all.
Shellfish, thank you guys. Excited to know that we're actually able to open again after, you know, since 2019. It's been 5 years. That's great. Good news. All right, next up, Aisha Gray, the update on the NRDA project.
Okay. Good morning, Commissioners, Director, Sandy, and Stephen. Charmaine mentioned the Restore America's Estuaries Conference in Washington, D.C. Our stewardship coordinator, Dr. Jonathan Pitchford, attended that meeting, and this is the presentation he gave on the project, and so I thought you might be interested in seeing it. Closer? Yeah? Okay. So this is the Grand Bay Land Acquisition and Habitat Management Project. It's funded through what we call NRDA, the Natural Resources Damages Assessments, which is part of the Deepwater Horizon oil spill money. So the primary goal is to restore wet pine savanna and pine flatwoods habitats and increase the diversity and abundance of native pine savanna and flatwood vegetation and increase habitat for wintering grassland birds. You can see all of the partners in this project, including the TIG and the members of the Restore, and then also the DEQ, the Grand Bay NEAR, the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources, and Fish and Wildlife Service. This project's been happening for the past 6 years. Whoops, can you next slide? So this is an important project because prior to European discovery, the Southeast was covered in this wet pine savanna habitat, and these are longleaf pine forests and savannas. And there's very little of this habitat remaining. I mean, these are very open areas, so they were definitely prone to development as people moved into this area. And what was lost was this great diversity of plants and animals that are in this really special habitat type. Next slide. So a lot of conservation in this area is already going on. So you have the National Wildlife Refuge that was established in 1992 in this area of Mississippi, right along the Alabama border, and also the Grand Bay National Estuarine Research Reserve is co-located there. The reason for all this is because of the uplands to wetlands area here is the largest in the state of intact habitat. And so it's our best opportunity to not only care for the marshlands, which are really important for commercial fisheries, but also care for the upland connection of that habitat. And those two things work together. So this is really the project area of the NRDA project is about 30,000 acres. And you can see it's kind of nestled. It's just in Mississippi, but you can see on the Alabama side, there's an additional 14,000 acres of habitat that's in conservation as part of the Grand Bay Savanna Complex. Next slide. So one of the parts of this project has been land acquisition. So there's been 1,600 acres of land that has been acquired. These are the parcels that have been acquired. And these parcels have been found to have some really rare plants in them. In addition to being really important for adding connectivity to the different management units that we're working on. Next slide. We're also doing really intensive monitoring. So you can see the green outlines show the different management units, and then in those is identified each of our long-term monitoring plots. And so our intention is that as we're restoring this landscape, that we're also doing detailed scientific monitoring so we can understand how well or not well these procedures are working to reach our objective. Next slide. So the types of activities that we do are first mastication or mulching, where we basically cut down the woody fuels using a gyrotrack. And what that does is it makes for less smoky fires when we were to burn, and it also kind of just grounds up those fuels so that they decay faster. And we've done about 300 acres, more than 300 acres since 2018, and we have about 900 acres planned to do this mastication work. Then we'll go in as the plants come back. A lot of invasive weeds are coming back, and so we'll use herbicide treatments in pretty limited areas, but across 2,000 acres. So this is very targeted work where we're delineating specific patches of these invasive plants or doing a cut and paint kind of application technique, and then on the trees and woody vegetation. And we'll do this across, and we've been doing this throughout. And then we apply prescribed fires to these areas. And so we've burned about 3,000 acres since 2018. Some of those are repeated burns. So you can, it's not that we burn the entire area. There's been several areas where we've had smaller parcels that have been burned repeatedly. For monitoring, again, like I said, we're doing this detailed monitoring, looking at vegetation, birds, and invasive species. And we want to do this so that we can understand how well our technique is working. And if we need to make any adjustments in the middle, we'll do that if we find that there's a technique that's working better. So we're using, for vegetation, what's called the Kluhl pot. And that's something that was developed by Andy Kluhl working in the Sandhill Crane Refuge in the late 90s. And interestingly, we recently invited Andy Kluhl to come and give a lunch and learn at the NEAR. And so he's 90 years old now, and he went out in the field with our biologist and also gave a seminar for about 40 people at the NEAR. And it was really a great opportunity for us to learn from one of the pioneers in this area. And then we do a lot of work on birds. What we're aiming to do is that there's a lot of grassland birds that winter in these areas, and because the areas have become more limited, some of those bird populations have been affected. So we have certain species that we're targeting and looking for, like the Henslow sparrow in the upper right corner there. Next slide. So this is a little video. I think you can play it. So this is a burn at the goat farm that was last year. Is it not playing? It's not playing. Okay, so you can see that this was actually a pretty aggressive burn. It got up pretty hot in the tops of the trees there, but it was very successful, and we had about 200 or 300 acres that were burned during this fire. And some of those trees, most of those trees would survive that, but even if they didn't, we're aiming towards a more grassland habitat, which is more open and has less trees. These are mostly slash pine. And so what happens is that through those hot burns, sometimes the germination of the longleaf pine and those trees start to come up, and those are at a less dense across the savanna. So you get more open grassland, less trees, and that's really what we're aiming for these habitats. Next slide. So at this burn that you just looked at the picture of, this is the management unit, and this is some of the pictures that were taken. So you can see 1 year before the burn, how overgrown it was with woody vegetation. 1 week after the burn, where it was quite, charred. And then 13 weeks after the burn, you can see the grasses and forbs are coming up. And then about 65 weeks after the burn, you can see that those grasses and forbs are getting higher, and some of the more woody vegetation is moving in. So this is something, these habitats are maintained by fire. So this prescribed burning is something that needs to reoccur on a 2 to 3 year time frame. Next slide. Part of this project, we did an ancillary that went as part of the Grand Bay NEAR. So we have this project that we kind of leveraged the NERDA project with the NEAR to do something that's unique, and that that we're quite proud of, is that as we were taking all of these plant specimens and as we were looking at all these different areas, we took specimen records and created an herbarium. And so what we have are pressed specimens of these plants. There's 855 specimens across 567 species, and we've done this just in the 6 years. And a lot of these are very rare species. And we have connected with CERNEC, which is the Southeast Regional Network of Expertise and Collections. This is kind of a museum project through National Science Foundation. And what it does is that we have these high-resolution digital photos that are in this database. So researchers from all over the country have access to this information, and they can come and to the database, collect information, and then, kind of pique their interest in these habitats in Mississippi. And we've had quite a few calls from researchers as far away as New York that are interested in working in Mississippi on our plant species. Next slide. So these are some of the bird species that are really important that we're looking out for out there. The Henslow sparrow is one, and they've had pretty dramatic increases as this work has occurred. So in our surveys, we detected 6 of these in 2019, just 1 year after the project started. But this year in 2024, we detected 23 of these birds. And the swamp sparrow, we had sort of similar increases with 162 detected in 2019 and over 500 in 2024. We've also had quite a bit of interest in the Grand Bay Near area because of this work by the Mississippi sandhill crane. So the sandhill cranes are radio tagged, and so as they move around across the coast, the biologists at Fish and Wildlife Service know where they all are. They're all named. They know their partners, and so they've caught quite a few of them hanging out in Grand Bay after these burns and in these new freshly opened up savannas, and so we think that's pretty great. And so you can see down there some of the tracking for these birds and the places where they're hanging out. And then we were able to capture a few photos of them, or this photo as well. Next slide. So this project, I think, overall has been a great success. A lot of habitat has been restored because of it. We have areas that are in much better condition. It's been a dramatic change. It's been an absolute delight for me personally just to go there every day and see how the habitats are changing from when I arrived in 2014. And we've also leveraged a lot of this work with the NEAR for outreach opportunities. So we've done a variety of outreach opportunities, including a teacher workshop that you have up there, kind of the second one over on the top, where Jay McElwain is talking about these procedures in prescribed burning to a group of teachers so that they can learn about how these habitats are maintained and then share that with their classrooms. In addition, we've had a lot of the students come out in field trips and talked with them about these rare plants, especially the carnivorous plants like the sundews and the pitcher plants, and just all of the special things that are here that really don't exist anywhere else. I think it gives students quite a sense of place to understand the native habitats. And I think in general that these open natural areas are important for everyone. And I think they do something really special for people to just to be able to enjoy nature on this kind of scale, in addition to all the other benefits that we get for fisheries and everything else from these. Do you have any questions?
I was just gonna say it's amazing how fast after a burn that grass can come back in 13 weeks. So you're laying something down that's doing something good.
It's amazing. I mean, after it's been burned, because I've seen this several times now. Kind of starting with a very large wildfire that we had in 2016, when a lot of area was burned, and just watching that, it's days. Within days, 3 days later, you can see all the little green spots coming up on the ground, and then it's the wiregrass that just comes up, and then it's that wiregrass that comes up and folds over, and that's what creates the little pockets of habitat that the Henslow sparrow, for example, nests in and runs around in, and that's their place. So it's fantastic.
It's great.
Commissioner Osborne wants to know, did the guy live?
What?
The guy in the picture live?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
One that got run over?
The one that got flattened there. Yeah. We have a program too where we do this with kids. We've done it at My Two Boots, which is a Gaucher Middle School. Well, we'll take that fire gear, the boots and the pants and jacket and stuff, and we'll kind of dress up a kid in it. We're always looking to get new firefighters and kids interested in firefighting, and so it's a lot of fun for them to put on the gear.
If I could, though, I'd like to thank the team at the NEAR. Y'all do a great job.
Thank you.
Fantastic. If you hadn't been there, right on the Alabama line,
Yep.
Franklin Creek exit, right?
Yep.
And just take it, go down there sometime, and you don't have to have a set appointment to stop by and say hello to them. They'd be glad to talk to you almost every day of the week, and they're there and show you some of the things that's going on. But I tell you, it's just it's too well kept. It needs to be brought out more. Thank you.
I agree. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions for Miss Aisha? No? You guys are doing great work. Thank you very much. Before we move on to the public comments, do we have any other business to add? Don't believe so.
Just one thing, Laura Moncrief sitting back here, she's about to leave us. Laura has been working with us for several years now and done a fantastic job. And you're not allowed to take Trevor with you. Trevor has to stay. Now, we can't, losing one of you is bad enough, but to lose both of you, that's not going to happen now. But we wish you the best of luck. She's going to Covington Engineering, but, Laura, we're going to miss you.
Okay. First public comment that we have is Mr. Ralph Humphreys on the artificial reef. You can come up and state your name and address, and I believe you have 3 minutes, Mr. Ralph.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ralph Humphrey, and I'm the president of the Mississippi Gulf Fishing Banks. And I wanted to thank the director for bringing up the artificial reef that's down there on the beach right now. It's parked at the Schooner Pier for the Seafood Museum, catty corner from the Miss Biloxi Yacht Club. So, and it's true that Bruno Milanese and Bay Pest Control contracted to build the cockroach itself. But I thought it was important to acknowledge the DMR's role, Artificial Reef, the director, in helping Gulf Fishing Banks obtain GOMESA funding. The GOMESA funding is what's actually going to deploy the reef itself. The cockroach was built by Bay Pest Control. The reef is going to be deployed because of GOMESA. In addition, there's a couple other projects that are on the line that, again, GOMESA helped fund. There's a shrimp boat, ironically enough, was part of the derelict vessel. We're going to deploy that one, and there's a couple others that are coming up soon, hopefully before the end of the year. But I want you to know that artificial reef, that tugboat, is every bit as big as the Omega protein boats that were donated last year. In fact, they're tall. It's taller. It's got a taller superstructure. So it's going to be a big artificial reef, and they cut holes all through it. The engines are out, big holes on the sides. So it'll be a good dive opportunity. And it's going to go in FH13. So I just want to thank the director for that. Also, while I'm on it, I wanted to acknowledge your seafood team. Is more than, like you said, it's more than just the law enforcement guys. I saw artificial reef people, I saw fin fish and oyster people. That was some of the best fried oysters and shrimp that I have ever eaten in my life. Better than any seafood restaurant I've ever been to. I don't know what they did. I saw Michael back there on the fryer and he wouldn't talk. They're kind of keeping it a secret, but it's unbelievable how good that fried seafood was. And anyways, I just wanted to acknowledge that too. So that's all I got. Unless you have any questions.
Hey, we thank y'all for what you're doing. And, we deployed quite a few reefs here. And I know that Travis and them are working on some other things.
Yep.
And being able to put out the cones and the pyramids, and then also being able to put out some, concrete culverts and stuff that we're doing. And I think we're about to rebuild a whole large section of Katrina Key.
Yep.
And artificial reefs coming in there. So
yeah, and I want to acknowledge Artificial Reef Bureau. We have a really great working relationship with Travis and all his team, and you as well. We appreciate the support that we've received. We couldn't do it without you. So there's a lot of good things going on in the Reef Bureau.
Thank y'all.
Thanks.
Appreciate it, Ralph. All right, the next public comment we had is concerning Round Island and sea trout. Mr. Sheldon, if you don't mind coming up and giving us your full name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Got to start all over again. Anyway, I'd like to ask permission to go over 3 minutes. I have two different subject matters, so that'd be all right.
That's up to him.
I approve 100% if everybody else is in, for sure. Sea trout's an important subject.
Thank you. Well, one of the things I'd like to talk to you about first is Round Island. I've been here several times talking about it before, And I am concerned that there's not a sense of urgency that I am seeing. I've been going out to Round Island for over almost 60 years now. And especially over the last few years, the scouring and the erosion of Round Island is accelerating. I'm no expert, but I do have the experience. And I've spoke to several people here in the group over the past year there. Where we at, as my question is, on the permitting? As I understand, by the time we go through the sturgeon surveys and everything else, we're realistically looking at probably 5 years down the road before any restoration can happen whatsoever. To me, in my opinion, and it's strictly an opinion, the sturgeon is going to be a big holdup from what I understand. To me, it's almost you're doing the same thing over and over again. I know for a fact that sturgeon surveys were done when they built the new impound area there at Singing River Island. The more recent one that was done at the south end of Greenwood Island, there was a sturgeon survey there. And of course, whenever they built what I call the Round Island Annex, obviously there was a survey done there as well. And it's my guess that if you would look at those surveys, you could probably change the location and change the date, and it wouldn't be a whole lot different. So that's going to be what I understand 2.5 years of holding up the permitting process. I'm here to tell you today, if it takes us 5 years before we begin restoration of Round Island, something to do there. At the rate it's eroding today and scouring today, you're not going to have very much left to save. The old growth trees, the live oak trees that are on Round Island, many that were over, I'm sure, over 100 years old, are laying out in the water on the west side of the island. And at the present rate, especially this calendar year, since spring, what I'm going to call the southeast side of Round Island is eroding extremely quick. I'm being conservative here when I tell you some areas of that island in the last 6 months on that side of the island have lost over 20 foot of shoreline. I was out there a week ago today that we had a pretty stout east wind, and I got some photographs. I couldn't get it to transfer to where I needed it on my thumb drive. The silt that with that east wind, and it wasn't a real extreme type, the silt that was pouring across the south end of that island went for miles heading west out through the Mississippi Sound. It was thick, it was heavy, and it wasn't a terribly rough day, but it was evidence of how much that island's being scoured. If it takes another 5 years, the things we're trying to save the most, that I'd like to see saved the most for the future generations, aren't going to exist. Over the last couple of years that I've been out there, the birds that are starting to use that island is remarkable. This year, hundreds of what do they call them? The cattle egrets, the white, smaller egrets there. There's been a pair of egrets, great blue herons I've been watching out there for several years. I've given them the nickname Gertrude and Heathcliff. Now, I don't know how many of you know who Gertrude and Heathcliff was, but you'd have to be over about 50 years old and know that was Red Skeleton. But I've been watching these birds. The roseate spoonbills, broadbills, whatever the fake-looking flamingos. This year, there was at least a dozen of those that were staying on that island for many, many months. It's a beautiful island, and we're losing the treasure there. I'm not too sure. I'd like to know that if anyone from this commission or others that would be responsible for the seeing to the permit, is anyone actually going to that island and looking for themselves? Instead of taking my word for it and I'm trying to describe it the best I can, is anyone going to the island and periodically every 3 months? Because it's happening quick.
I think we're about 1:30 over.
Yeah, it's okay. But Jennifer, we are going, right? To answer his question.
Yes, sir. We do regularly visit Round Island, and we also do quarterly aerial surveys over all the coastal preserves. So we do go over Round Island at that point in time. Now, just for the commission's information, the privately owned portions of Round Island were acquired by the state in 2021. The MOA with the city of Pascagoula so that we could have management authority on the property that they own that they could not sell to the state wasn't finalized until March of 2023. So we've been in preliminary discussions with DEQ and the other resource agencies about the expansion of Round Island. And we are hopeful that that permit application will be submitted in the first half of 2025. So we're not far off from it. It is something that we're all really well aware of. When we're talking about different funding streams, we're talking about funding streams that are not singular to the DMR or to DEQ, but they're having to go through some of these outside entities. There's just a process to go through that we have to do that. Now, we do have the core project manager that works on the DMR projects. And so when that comes in, that'll be one of the projects that is assigned to that specific project manager that knows about all of the projects that we currently have going and is very intimately aware of how necessary it is to get the project approved as quickly as possible. But the sturgeon studies are going to be required from National Marine Fisheries Survey. It's not a core requirement, so it's not something that we can ask that the Corps not look at. Now, if National Marine Fisheries wants to look at studies from the Greenwood Island expansion or the Deer Island expansion or something like that and use that as supplemental information, that's definitely something that they can do, but that's their requirement. It's part of what the Corps has to go through with their permitting process. Just like we send our applications to state resource agencies, the Corps sends them to other federal resource agencies.
Thank you.
That
It
makes sense?
sounds like the things are moving in the right direction.
That's
Is
why
what
I'm
it
here. I
appears.
just want
Yeah.
to make sure that
Okay.
everyone understands how
Yeah, we
there's a
appreciate.
sense of urgency about it. And I'd like a couple of minutes with you after the meeting. I've got a photograph I'd like to show you. All right.
Okay.
Moving along. Thank you. All right.
We got
next-
about 30 more seconds, Mr. Sheldon. 30 or 45 more seconds. If it's
How
okay.
about a new subject?
We'll give you another minute. Would that be okay?
Best I can.
Okay.
All right, let's talk about speckled trout. All right, first I'd like to say the last time I was here, I don't remember who said it. They pointed out after I made my presentation that they were avid speckled trout fishermen. Well, I'm here to tell you today I am an avid speckled trout fisherman. The numbers have been dwindling. Some of my friends that I fish with or fish around routinely are many of the names that you know. One of them is Diane Coulter. Y'all have used Diane Coulter in the past for tagging redfish. Diane Coulter and I are both good fishermen. We use the identical baits. Diane Coulter will outfish me 2-to-1. We're fishing in the same area with the same bait. And when Diane Coulter is not catching trout on the east side of the Mississippi, the numbers are dwindling. The sizes are becoming less. I do have a question about the commercial hook and line licenses. We have 129 that were issued in Jackson County last year. Apparently, these licenses cost $100 a piece. If they're selling, what I'd like to know, if these people are selling those fish at a wholesaler, do y'all get a report of how many pounds and who's selling them?
Yeah, Rick, you want to address that real quick?
Yes, sir. We get a report and we actually make it public as far as the quantity that's been sold. So we have a quota that's 50,000 pounds, so we keep up with that. And it's actually on our website. The last I looked, we were at about 31,000 pounds of that 50,000. And in order to sell spotted sea trout, you have to have a spotted sea trout endorsement too, so we know exactly who's catching those fish and selling them.
And we are also addressing in the fisheries department, it's been brought up to us a couple of times by the commission of the situation as to the endorsement that you have to have. And we're relooking at the endorsement, decide whether there's something we need to change on it or not, because we're not catching our quota right now. And we would like to catch our quota to be sold in the market. So we are looking at that, and the team is looking very hard and trying to make sure we do it the right way.
To me, it would seem like the quota has been too high because we haven't reached it in years, or either our surveys or numbers that are there. Let me say this. I do not have anything against commercial fishermen. I'm probably one of the few recreational fishermen, sport fishermen that's ever put a letter to the editor in the Sun Herald in support of the Menhaden fisheries. That's not real popular with my friends. They blame every time they don't catch fish, it's Menhaden, it's pogey fishermen. We all know that's a bunch of bunk. And those are hard-working people up there providing a product each and every one of us use every other day. I have two photographs, and I need time for this. I'd like to share with you. This was a photograph that was taken last spring. It took me quite a while to get a hold of it. It is a resident of Pascagoula. I blocked out their faces there. I can tell you that all three men that are fishing in that boat do have commercial licenses. There's 92 fish there. That is in the springtime. Rumors circulating around town, and I stress rumors, that these fish were caught at the grass beds at Petty Boy. I know for a fact, I've been out there all my life, there are no grass beds that extend 1 mile beyond Petty Boy. So if they're catching these fish, they're selling them commercially inside that 1 mile limit. What are we doing to regulate that? These people were bragging they had many trips like that this week, or that particular week.
Rick, tell me if I'm right. Petty Boys, that's run by the national parks. It's not it's not us that it's national parks that does that. Is that right?
Well, I think that's an enforcement question, but yeah, there's a 1 mile boundary within the Gulf Islands National Seashore, and they do have jurisdiction in there.
And Kyle, that we don't have control over that, right? That's being enforced by them. So that's a federal enforcement, not a state enforcement. But so for us to be able to say whether or not it's they're catching them legal there, Kyle, y'all help me. Is there something I'm missing here? Okay. But, I'm sure that our Marine Patrol officers are looking at everything that we can with it, but our hands are tied to a point under that, I think, as to whether or not they're inside the 1 mile.
They're inside that 1 mile commercial fishing.
Yeah.
Y'all can work together?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. One last photograph, and this is what, I've been very fortunate. I retired at an early age. I've been retired now over 15 years. This is my grandson. At the time, that was probably about 5 or 6 years ago. It's the very first wade fishing trip I took him to Round Island. And let me tell you what, we hadn't been there 5 minutes. He hooked up with that fish right there, tossed his brand new Zebco I bought him into the water, and leaped like he had been shot out of a cannon to come up and come up with that fish. And that's what I'm trying to protect. I have caught thousands of speckled trout. I release way more than I ever keep. I'm out there for the sportsman. I love the nature. I've learned to appreciate the birds and everything out on Round Island, the gardenias in the summertime. But anyway, that's what I'm trying to protect. I've had a blessed life. I've lived the dream fishing and growing up here on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, but I'm trying to protect what's out there for the future generation. Thank you.
I understand your passion, Mr. Sheldon, for sure. Thank you.
And if I could, one of my old buddies from the military, he lives over in Alabama, but I was with him the other day and we were talking. He was coming over here to go fishing. And he comes to that area that you're talking about, and Horn Island and that area and all, and he comes over and he talks about how great the fishing is in Mississippi. And he's not one that keeps a whole lot of fish either. He likes to catch them. He does it on fly rod. And he just loves to catch the redfish and the speckled trout and all. But talking about how plentiful they are in the certain times of the year there. So it is good to know that we have the resource, and it's good to know that the resource is beautiful out there. And we are doing everything, I promise you. That team, the team that works on this for the DMR, is working hard every day to manage that resource the best that we can possibly do, to make sure that we're taking care of it and that we can have it so that that young man can be there, and that his grandson can be able to catch that fish too. Yep. Otherwise,
Any
Brody
other-
Arms ain't gonna give you a key anymore. Than you gotta do.
Brody. All right. If we have any other questions or comments on that, then I guess I'll ask if somebody has a motion that we can close.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
I make a second.
All those in favor?
All right.
Thank you.
But it was good.
Yeah. Does she want to
Not
keep
like it
these?
used to be. It used to be 5 hours.
I know. I wanted to go fast. Does she want to keep these? Okay.
Let's see. Did I?